Welcome to the Challenge Chronicles. I'm Devin Jordan. I'm with Rob McIntyre and Trace Armstrong. We're here to cover Spies, Lies, and Allies, Episode 3. Couple of shout-outs before we move on. For our patrons, we wanted to thank Philip Pajic and Gary Hogue II. Thank you for supporting us as patrons. If you too would like to become a patron, you can go to the Challenge Chronicles. No, you can't go there. You can go to patreon.com/the Challenge Chronicles, subscribe for $4 a month, and get all of our extra content. Tentatively this week, it's still TBD what the extra episode for patrons will be. Most likely, I think it'll probably be best moments in the history of the challenge. It's something that we talked about a little bit at the end of our extra patron episode last week. Ideas on what we think we should be in there. MPH had another really good addition in Discord about one that we missed. He mentioned the Veronica Julie incident, which I thought was a little bit of an oversight by us. So that's why I'm glad we did that.
One?
The
right?
Bungie thing.
I'd assume
Veronica.
trying to kill her, but there's like 4.
But yeah, that's why I'm glad we did that at the end of the Patreon episode last week. So again, patreon.com/the Challenge Chronicles. Let's move on to episode 3, Spies, Lies, and Allies, Double Agents 2. I went in very optimistic. I went in very, very open this season. I was very open to this season being good. I thought the first 2 episodes were good. This episode was absolutely fucking terrible. I thought this episode was awful.
I wouldn't go that far. I was definitely lower on it than, like, I thought this was the worst of the 3 so far by a decent amount. For me, just the main problem with it is it was one of those episodes where the entire plot line was based on kind of a will they, won't they decision from Tori. And we've had those episodes in the past, and I just don't find them that compelling because we know the 2 options that are on the table, and it's just like watching the person just kind of waffle back and forth is not engaging to me.
It revolved around that, and it revolved around a player that I think pretty much like has essentially no chance to win the game too. Someone that's pretty much like inconsequential, and has very little power in the house.
You're saying Big T?
Correct. This episode was like a preseason football game. There were like a lot of big players there. None of them really participated in it. Fessy had a limited amount of confessionals in it. So did Amanda. So did Kyle. All of the traditional vets that you would hope carry some of the entertainment through this point in the season and in individual episodes at a time were pretty much non-existent.
I must be weird because I really liked this episode. Granted, I'm not slept in 2 weeks, but you know.
Let me throw in one more point, and I think you can probably transition. You may have something to say about this too. This mission was absolutely abysmal. Guess how much runtime this mission took up?
Oh, God. Third of the episode?
In actual airtime. It took 32 minutes. 32 minutes of airtime in this mission. All right, Trace, go.
Okay, so oddly enough, I liked the mission, and I really liked the vote, and I really liked the elimination. Okay, it's like
I really enjoyed the elimination too. I
will say this: of these first 3, this was the weakest of the 3. Like I'm with Rob on that, and you, Devin, because you liked the first 2 and hated this one. I liked the mission because it helped get a lot of insight into what and how some of these rookies are going to perform throughout the rest of the season. Up until this point, I haven't really been able to gauge it. And now I get it. I also liked that they spotlighted the rookies this episode because I think it's going to be important for future seasons. All of these rookies are going to be gone in about 4 episodes. Okay. Like most of these rookies there is 0 chance that any vet, well, not 0. There's close to 0 that any chance that a vet is actually going to see an elimination for 4 more episodes is my guess.
For 4 episodes? I don't know.
I mean, functionally, there's going to be a lot of these double rookie pairs are going to be gone.
Right, but you've got 2 more episodes, but they can strategically put people in such a way.
Episodes?
Yeah, I mean, you've got one more rookie pair in the Coriel and Michelle. So unless they win the elimination, or unless they win the mission next week, they're going in as the house vote. Period. That's what's about to happen.
I don't know, dude. I think it's going to start to turn because I really do.
I think it has to. Like, I think once they let's say they go in and they're done, then there's no rookie pairs left.
Yeah,
but they can. No, there could be though. There really could be, depending on how the partner switching goes after the elimination.
I don't think there would be. I think almost that everybody who's involved in that situation now knows what's at hand, and that they need a veteran around them to have some type of protection.
But see, I think that's also where we figured out in this episode, Big T is so far at the bottom of that pecking order on the Vet Alliance.
And we talked about that too. We speculated about that last week, that we talked about like where her allegiance is, and we didn't think that she was in a good spot. So to be fair, as bad as I thought that this episode was, based off of the preview for next week, I do think next week will finally start to be a little bit spiced up. It seems like the Veteran Alliance starts to crumble. I'm with Rob. I agree. I think that next week it probably ends. I think we will see a veteran go in at some point next week. I think there's a decent chance of that. And if the Veteran Alliance does continue, it really can't last much longer beyond next week. It was just more of the same kind of this week, right? We knew it was going to be all rookies going in. It didn't seem like now was going to be the time for a veteran to go into elimination. And it didn't seem, you just knew that Tori was going to bring up everything that happened last season with Big T, regardless of the fact of whether or not she acted on how she really felt.
I mean, I do think there was some chance she would have put Big T in. Like, I think her gameplay first off this episode was very poor. I think to go up to Big T and even mention that there's a thought of putting her in when you're like not sure you're going to do it. I don't see why.
Yeah.
Why you pretty sloppy. That's just putting her radar up when it probably was already up about some of this stuff. But I don't see why you're spooking her.
She didn't seem surprised. I mean, that was the thing. Big T knew. And there's also this thing where I'm also like, Tori, if you want to pull the trigger on Big T, is that going to end the Vet Alliance? No. You know why?
I disagree. I think that's a terrible move.
Yeah.
I think that's because like once you like say, oh, but Veteran Alliance isn't over, but I have a good reason to put Tori in. There's like there's 1,000 other people in the house who say, you know what, I have a good reason to put Tori in now. She was the first one to put a vet in. Like we're pushing her to the bottom.
I didn't think about it that way. Fair
point.
You
can't put the genie back in the bottle with that. The genie's out. It's over.
Yeah, once Pandora's box has been opened, it's open, and there's nothing you can do.
Somebody watch the trailer for next week.
I've said this multiple times. Once, and I've gotten it from Survivor because this is very true in Survivor. Once you say someone's name, it just makes it so much easier to keep saying their name, and that's what's going on with Coriel, and he brought it up in this episode.
Yeah.
I think that they are definitely going in next week, and it'll be interesting to see who they go against. If I am the vets, you are hoping that Coriel and Michelle get voted in, and then follow that up with Big T and who's her partner now? It's
Jeremiah.
She's with Jeremiah right now.
So like that is the matchup you want if you're a vet next week.
I mean, I would think about putting Tori in if I was them at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be really interesting to see what happens with Michelle, because I think it was interesting that she pretty much wasn't an option for Tori to be thrown in this week, right?
No, she mentioned her. She mentioned Michelle, Berna, and Big T. She wasn't obviously in as much of the spotlight as the other ones.
When did she mention her? Because Tasha said that she wanted Michelle, but I don't know if we ever heard.
When she was talking to Devin, she mentioned Michelle.
I think that Tori was trying not to make further enemies out of Corey and Michelle until she had to. She played sloppy this week. I mean, like really, really sloppy. So, the Big T conversation. All right, cool. I agree with you guys a little bit more now on that. But going up to Tasha and saying like, hey, who do you want? I'm going to try. She didn't really try. Like, come on.
Well, it's also like, I mean, Tori has probably a much better understanding of like who's good and who's bad in the house than Tasha does. Because, I mean, she just knows these people. She's been around them a while. If you really want Tasha to stay, you probably have a better idea of who Tasha can beat than she does, just because you know a lot of these people and you have a scouting on terms of what these eliminations could be and how they might play out. So going up and asking Tasha, like, oh, who do you think you could beat? You know who you think like she could beat in the house. Like, she's not going to have a better idea of that than you. And unless if you're like committed to like, okay, whatever she says, we'll just give it to her and then we'll go from there. Because I do think if you go that way, it would give you some cover with that person. Like, hey, they wanted you. That's why I put you in. But to do it like the way she did is just
super sloppy.
It's super sloppy. It burns her. She clearly had some friends in the house who, now that she put Tori on blast, aren't going to be happy with her. So I thought that was very poor gameplay.
She pretty much just made enemies for herself when she didn't have to do it, right? A lot of the things like she didn't have to do this episode.
And the one thing, so I'll bring this up on the Aftermath. Tasha was on the Aftermath as well as a couple other people. Tori wasn't there, and I wish they would have had her on to have her kind of there to defend herself. But apparently from the first, on like the opening mission from this season, Tasha said that Tori told her that it was kind of hard to grasp exactly what Tori was trying to do, but that she basically was trying to get Tasha to think that she was on the same team as Tori was to help her and Kells like break their cinder block. So she was like, no, the way the game works is you're paired with me and Kells now, and we all have to work together to break this cinder block, and like give Tasha the hammer and have her start wailing away at the cinder block. Tasha didn't fall for it. But like, I think your upside, and I would want to hear what her side of it is, but I think your upside of that move is so limited. Like, winning the missions here, like, it buys you safety for a week, but it really doesn't, like, it doesn't matter that much. And it's not like getting second gets you anything either.
Especially at this point in the game.
Yeah, and then when you have somebody who's an international rookie, who their experience from the show, you're not sure what it may or may not be, like, these people don't want to look dumb on TV. Like, when you're trying to pull one over on them like that, you're so liable to just, like, not even game offending them, personally offending them and causing a big rift.
So we're in agreement that her gameplay this week was poor. It was very poor. How much do we think what she did in this episode, her actions, will actually affect her moving forward?
I'd be skeptical of it just because, like, I'm sure next week somebody else will do something and they'll be the first name. They'll be the first name on the block. You know, like I don't think that it'll carry that much going forward. And it's not, and like the people she burned was Tasha and her group, which, although they seem to be in this smarter contingent of rookies, probably aren't going to have that much power going forward, unfortunately.
And Big T, who I don't think has pretty much like any sway in the house at this point.
No, she just doesn't.
Pretty much Fessy's only moment this episode was at the top of the episode when Big T went to him and confronted him and asked if he was the one that was responsible for the way that the votes went last week.
Yeah.
And it was pretty much Big T trying to figure out why Fessy did not include her in the plan. And Fessy kind of danced around the situation until he admitted that he wasn't sure where Big T's alliances were. And then we got a confessional from Corey where he pretty much stated the same sentiment. So it really does seem what we were thinking in the recap of episode 2 last week is exactly what the vets were thinking too. Like, where does Big T's alliances lie? We heard Corey say that she hangs around with the rookies a lot. And she really was pretty quiet this episode until the end of nomination, right? When Josh was like, Big T, like, you got to say something here. Because it seemed like there was a realistic chance that
I don't think she would have been voted in.
Not voted in. I mean, thrown in. But I mean,
I think she kind of had the right idea, though.
Who did?
Big T. Just stay quiet. Let somebody else do it.
I don't know, because you need an opportunity to talk to everyone in the house, right? Just say something. Because even though she's not going to get voted in this week, you know what I mean? It's going to get to the point where like there's like less and less people in front of you in line.
Yeah, and I suppose that, I mean, there is a very easy argument to Tori of like, look, if you put me in, whether I win or lose, like you've now broken this truce amongst the veterans, and since you're the one to break it, you're liable to be the one put in. Like, look at what happens to Johnny and Laura on World of Worlds 2. Like, it's just whoever breaks that chain is liable to get put in.
So I also thought it was really interesting, and I think the reason that Big T did it was because of what you just said, is that when she decided to have a conversation with Tori, and she went up to Tori after nomination, after Tasha and Jeremiah had been voted in by the House, she knows that she needs to now convince Tori to not put her into elimination. When she goes up to Tori and asks to speak to Tori alone, she doesn't ask to speak to Tori alone. She asks to speak to Tori in private with Kyle present.
Yeah, I thought having Kyle there was a very good move by her. Correct.
Yeah, because I feel like he's kind of the bridge between them. It seems like Kyle has like a decent relationship with pretty much everyone in the house, just because he's, like we've talked about, he's done this for 7 seasons at this point. I think he has the ability to at least have a working relationship with people.
Yeah,
right? I don't know about like a good relationship, but something that like he would be able to act on.
I think out of the veterans, you'd have to say that Kyle's probably Big T's closest ally. I don't even know if Tori really knows that. So to have him there as kind of like the third party to confirm what Big T is saying, I thought was a very good move.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think one thing too, like if you're Tori, you have to be conscious. Like you just have to be careful when you're playing with people who don't want to. Like clearly, a lot of these international players really value the opportunity to be on American television and to have a bigger audience like that. So you just have to be careful in the way you like. You don't think they don't want to look dumb. Like you have to be careful with that.
So the Rookie Alliance. The non-existent Rookie Alliance.
What Rookie Alliance?
There is not one.
Any prayer of it is completely dead. They are now in the minority, 14-13. I will say this though, they still would have a chance if Big T swung to the other side. And they
it's 14-12.
I think like a CT or somebody who's not probably in the side of the pecking order, they could probably tuck a few people over. You would think.
But that's the thing. The people at the bottom of the Veteran Alliance need to wake up, smell the roses, and realize that they need to team up with some of these rookies before their chances are completely gone. Because if someone's at the bottom, who's at the bottom? Let's talk about this now. I think we mentioned this a little bit last week. We know Big T's at the bottom for the veterans. Who else? Someone's got to be there.
CT's got to be have a target. I just don't see how he can't.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, maybe CT has another handshake with people and we're not seeing because he's getting like 0 screen time. Like he's getting some
he really hasn't done much
reaction shots and he's had like 1 or 2 confessionals, but like he's been very invisible so far this season. I don't think that's going to remain that way. You don't pay CT's appearance fee and not put him on television more. So at some point we'll get more CT, but right now
he's not up to much right now.
That's what I think. I'm with you. I just don't know that he's riding the CT wave. He's playing his game where he just tries to hover under the radar and not make any decisions or piss anyone off so that people don't look at him.
I still think Fessy and Casey could be in trouble too.
I'll believe it when I see it.
I would say that definitely Big T's at the bottom. I would then put CT and then the next person up
Amber B.
Amber B.
Oh, Amber B. I forgot about her.
Like,
yeah, you're right.
I think she might even be below Big T because
the thing is just right now she has Josh as a partner. Maybe she just gets picked by the. And
you've got
you're still not going to have to. You're still not going to have to vote vets in pick them out of a pair to put them in yet. You'll just have to vote in a pair that has a vet on.
Here's where things are going to get really dicey for the vets in this truce that they have. And I didn't think about this before I made the 4-episode mark. I'm just going to blame it on no sleep. So we're just going to go with that excuse. It's going to be interesting, the pecking order, as vet pairs become more prevalent. You know what I'm saying?
True too.
Because that's going to really rock the boat.
Yeah, so thinking about it now, right? Like Michelle and Coriel would be the obvious choice for next week to continue theoretically they could put all rookie pairs in next week again if they wanted to, right? Mm-hmm. The week after that, they would be able to, just because of the way that everything's set up to this point, they would be able to put Big T and Jeremiah in, and I don't think that would be
no one's going to cry about that.
Yeah,
the only people who would might be like Kyle or C2, who I don't know how much equity they have with the real nucleus in that line.
Yeah, CT at this point.
Big T has no political influence here, so if someone's got to go, if you're CT and even someone who's partially working with her,
and so after that, that's really when it gets interesting. I feel like so we pretty much have 2 more weeks where it can be pretty much boilerplate, signed, sealed, and delivered. Like wake me up when it's 3 weeks from now. At that point, that's when it gets pretty interesting. And it'll be really interesting once the partners have shaken up a little bit to that point.
Mm-hmm.
I really think the people who are more athletic threats, like Fessy and Casey, I just think that's what could be the determining factor here. Like, you think Amanda and Ashley want to run a final against Casey? Would you rather run a final against Casey or Nani?
Yeah, I agree with you there for sure.
And if
I'm Amanda and Ashley,
So I
can't see them being okay playing for second place like that. I don't even mean it that way. That they couldn't, if Casey gets the wrong partner in a final, beat her. But they have enough of an instinct where they're going to put them on the bottom.
let's break down these numbers. So I think that's really what it comes down to: who's in the Big Brother alliance and who's in the like Amanda, Ashley, Nelson, and Corey alliance, right? So like, do we really think that other alliance has more numbers than the Big Brother alliance?
Yeah,
also includes
100%.
Devin and also includes Nani.
Devin's voting with Nelson over them. Yeah, 100%. I bet you Devin.
I don't know.
No,
dude.
I think Devin is with Josh for sure.
Nelson, dude.
They were on the same Are You the One season together.
That doesn't make it. No, Rob. No. He is 100% Big Brother alliance.
Why?
Yes, that's all we've seen this season.
That's all they've shown.
I'm in the Big Brother alliance.
We just saw him talking with Tori and Denise at this episode, and we also from his perspective, Josh is one thing. He would. Well, I'm sure he'd much rather go to the end with Nelson and Amanda than Casey and Fessy.
I don't think
on camera in a confessional. He said he was 100% working with the Big Brother Alliance.
Working with and being committed to them over people he's known for years now.
Let's bet right now. Let's bet.
How are we going to bet on this?
Who...
Does Devin vote against the Big Brother Alliance first or the other alliance?
Does he vote against the, like, whatever you want to call the other alliance?
Nelson, Amanda. I would never have put Ashley in there, but those two specifically. He picks Nelson over Fessy. That's what I would say for sure.
I don't think so. I think he may pick Nelson over Fessy. Because that's still part of the, like, Josh would be livid if that happened. Like, I don't think it's going to happen.
Josh can be livid then. Josh gets livid quite frequently.
I don't get why you think he has like such this great relationship with Nelson.
Because they all talked about it, and they were on an Are You the One season together, and they lived together.
We haven't seen any of that this season.
Yeah, Devin, we only see 90 minutes of content, and they're there for weeks at a time.
And Rob, we saw absolute dog shit this episode. They could have shown us something this episode, and if it happened, we literally saw nothing. I was watching.
Exactly. So why do we even care what they're showing us?
I was watching.
Here's the thing.
For 32 minutes during that challenge.
The last two seasons, if you go Double Agents and Spies, Lies, and Allies, there has literally been 0 minutes of Devin and Nelson being shown working together. There has been 0 minutes of a confessional of them talking about working with each other. So I'm finding it really hard to believe that they're working together now when Devin has been in a confessional saying he's 100% aligned with Josh, Fessy, and Casey. I have a hard time buying that, Rob.
We'll see what happens.
So let's put Devin aside. Even beyond that, right now that's
4 people
versus 4 people. Right? I think Devin votes with them. I think Nani definitely votes with the Big Brother Alliance. So I think that's 6 people right there.
Oh, so who's left in the house at that point?
CT.
Kyle.
I
would think Kyle definitely votes with Corey.
I don't
Nelson
think Kyle votes. Yeah, I think Kyle does not.
I think they do whatever they think advantages them at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just don't see people wanting to ride with Fessy and Casey to the final. I know they failed in the final last year. I just think they're so clearly the biggest athletic threat. So Rob, like I'm going to say this. I agree with you. If I was one of the people in the house, I would want to get rid of them. Right? Like that. I wouldn't want to go against them in the final. I would try and figure out a way to get them out. It doesn't. I don't think people are going to behave that way though. Like, why? I just don't think it's going to happen because it seems because of how well they're aligned in the house. I don't think that people, like we've seen people, like I don't think people really think, do you think people think of Fessy as the strongest person in the house? I think, not even necessarily in a final, but I think in an elimination, people know they don't want to go against him. And it's one thing like now when you can kind of control who is going against versus later down the line, you might be the one who ends up in elimination against him. Like, for example, like if you're in charge of, if we know, all right, we know it's rookies that are in, and there's going to be one vet who's going in. If that one vet is Fessy, I know I'm not going against him if I'm Amanda or Nelson.
Mm-hmm. I also feel like if I am one of the male veterans, as soon as this truce is over, I'm actively working to get Fessy out somehow. You know, like at some point you've got to take the shot at him because if I'm Kyle, you know, the chances of him getting thrown in against a Fessy is high after what happened last year. And just it seems like people still don't trust Kyle. We haven't seen hints of that yet, but I just feel like they're going to use that as a scapegoat reason to throw him in. If you're Kyle, do you really want the threat of having to do a hall brawl with Fessy again?
At this point, is there anyone in the house outside of CT that has a greater chance, greater than 50% chance of beating Fessy in an elimination?
No.
Yeah.
Greater than 50%? No. Do I think there's a rookie that could take a shot at a couple rookies that could maybe, if it's a right elimination, get a more than 50% chance? Yes. I think
for
that.
sure. And I mean, it's also one of these are paired eliminations, so you don't know who he's going to be paired with. And then it's also like, I mean, if he gets the one this week, that's not really playing to his strengths at all.
Yeah. His best situation would be too is if he was like thrown in by someone and didn't have to be paired with Esther too, as his partner.
But if somebody's throwing him in, they're throwing him in until he goes. Like, and they're going to he's getting thrown in with the worst partner as possible for that elimination. And not only that, Devin, they'd also at that point they're able to see what the elimination is and have an idea of what they're doing. Yeah. So if it's Hall Brawl, then like why are you putting him down there? And you can give him one that's bad.
That definitely like limits the amount of times that he's going to go in too. So any like strength elimination, there's just no point of putting him in, right? Like why even bother?
I mean, he could just be voted in by the house, and then they don't know what the elimination is.
Well, depending on the elimination, I didn't think about the standpoint of like if he's the winner's vote. And you see an elimination that's going to be interesting for you need both people in the pair to be good. I mean, that's the situation where you look at the weakest person in the house and pair them with Fessy for an elimination against whoever the strongest person. You know, you have to manipulate the vote to where it's like a Jeremiah and Corey situation, and then go from there.
All right, we pretty much haven't talked about that episode. Like,
yeah, I do think there was some fun stuff this episode. Like, Nelson's boot camp at the beginning, I thought was fun. Where I
was not entertained by that at all. Like,
really?
Whatsoever. No, dude. Like, I was thinking about this. Like, I think Nelson is funny when he's like when he does stuff unintentionally, right? Like, he's naturally funny. When they're like scripting scenes around him to like be entertaining.
He's like the creed. He's like the creed of the challenge, where he just needs his offhanded remarks and not having a plot line built around him.
Like it's just like then what do you guys always say from like what's his like most famous line?
Well, when the needy greedy or meeting in the 18th century, or it's multiple choice, so it's a 50-50 chance. Like
pick
one. I actually am curious that it seems like he's kind of just ditched Ashley now, right?
Yeah, completely.
I wonder what happens then if Byrne is gone within the next 2 or 3 weeks. Are they like? I wonder how if they're still simpatico.
Define simpatico.
Like, are they still like locked in voting together? I mean, I would think so, but you never know.
Yeah, I think they're on the same page now. Like, I think that they like politically
they were on the same page with the elimination.
Say that again?
They weren't on the same page with the elimination.
For who they wanted to go home, yeah. But like, as far as the people that were in there, like I'm sure Nelson didn't want Berna to be in there, but like, I mean, at the end of the day, it really isn't like a huge hit to his game.
No, not at all. I did also really enjoy in the beginning of the episode when Coriel and Gabo are talking, and it seems like Coriel is
that was a very good scene.
Yeah, well, it seems like Coriel like actually knows kind of like what's going on. He's like trying to tell Gabo like, hey, you can be voted in, right, just by the winners. Like Nani doesn't have to be involved in that. They can just pick you out and put you in. He's like, oh, I won't be voted in. I have Nani as a partner.
You thought that conversation came off that way? I didn't think that came off that way at all. Trace,
that's kind of what I drew from it. That he's saying like, oh, I'll never be voted in. I have Nani as a partner. It's like, dude, they can just pick anybody they want.
No, he thought that he was just safe based off of like the House vote. Like, I think they were just talking about that. Like, I don't think he was really...
He said doesn't think he's going to go into elimination anytime soon because he has Nani as a partner.
I don't know.
Which I think is very false.
What did you think? Did we lose Trace?
Yeah, he says we need to pause. We need to stop and refresh.
Okay, we're live. All right, sorry everyone. More technical difficulties.
Not mine this time.
But we're back. What were we even?
We were talking about Coriel and Gabo.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was a good conversation. I thought that was interesting. Coriel brought up what I brought up earlier in the show about how because his name was said and because it's kind of like he was put out there as an option to be thrown into elimination, he thinks that he's in jeopardy to be put in pretty much every time. And that's what we saw this episode. And I mean, strategically, I think that only makes sense from the people in the house too, right? There's no reason to make more enemies than you have to, unlike what Tori thinks apparently from this episode. But
I agree.
I think she. One thing that has been weird with her too, like both these past 2 episodes have kind of been built around like will they, won't they decisions from Tori. Because last episode was whether or not she was going to support the vets voting in Kells, and in this episode she has her whole stuff with Big T and who she's going to end up putting in. So it's been notable that they've been really spotlighting her political / social game.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about we have to talk about the mission, and we have to talk about the elimination. Trace, what did you want to say? Did you have something that you wanted to say before we move on to either one of those?
So when we were talking about alliances a few minutes ago, it almost feels like there's 3 vet alliances. You've got the Big Brother people, you've got the Nelson and Corey alliance, and then you've got like Anissa, Tori, and some of the other people floating in the middle. I think Tori's way further down that totem pole than we think she is. You know, I feel like
I don't think she's very high up, to be honest.
She's low on that totem pole.
I agree.
That's it.
I think she could use a veteran partner right now.
She needs like not CT. She needs Fessy, or she needs someone in that.
She needs to get like paired up with, I don't know, Devin or Nelson or something.
Yeah, pick a side.
It seems like Devon's aligned pretty well, right? Because
Devin is, I think, in a very good spot.
When we saw Tori go over her thought process initially with Anissa about what she should do and about how the vote should go, Devin was the third person involved in that conversation. And so this really does bring to light that a lot of the animosity from last season between the two of them that was stated as much between the two or by both of them was pretty much for show.
1,000%.
And I think we knew that at the time.
We did,
but this really just emphasizes it even more.
I think this also just emphasizes that it was for show, and they're not carrying that show over to this season. They have other ways to get on TV now, so they'll be doing other stuff. All
right, let's talk about the mission. This pretty much violates every tenet that we have set up for a good mission. Trace,
no explosions, at least.
No
what
explosions.
Did you find redeeming about this?
I
mean, it was difficult, and it was interesting to watch, and just like what it actually was. I mean, I think there was a really easy way around most of the issues. Just have more teams go at once, and like maybe there was a health hazard where you couldn't do
it.
That.
Probably was that cave.
You had too many.
It'd be chaos.
Yeah,
it'd be chaos. Have them all jump in the water.
I mean, look. Tommy already got into. We haven't even talked about that.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that.
Point where he had to leave,
but.
Yeah.
What I liked about
Michelle had her face bleeding out the whole thing.
Yeah, what I liked about it is you actually saw what rookies could dig down and work hard. And Michelle, you know what? I was wrong. I did not think that physically she was going to be a huge competitor, because on Survivor she has never been like a great challenge, person. And
she was always just okay.
She was okay, but she was political.
Trace, I think she has some kind of record for elimination or for immunity wins, doesn't she? I'm going to look it up while you keep talking. But go ahead.
All right, yeah, look it up, because I have a hard time believing that she has a great immunity record on Survivor. Granted, I did not see
the Interco wrong.
I just didn't see her season prior to season 40, so I just don't know. But where I was going with that is like she really dug deep in that swim challenge and got. Her nose is bleeding. She was a better swimmer than Corey in that, which was interesting. And she was really pushing hard, and she was going after it. Like, I just did not expect that from her, especially after watching season 40, Winners at War of Survivor. Like, I did not know she had that in her, because there was no glimpse of that in season 40. She just seemed okay. She never seemed like she was a real threat to anyone. She was going to make it to the end, but there was no way she was winning.
I mean, I have also been impressed by her. I really liked Michelle on TV. I didn't think she had the overall athletic profile that you'd really look for in a challenge competitor, but I do think she has impressed me so far. I thought like her upside would kind of be Amanda, maybe like someone kind of like an Amanda type competitor, and I think she's actually shown she has maybe a bit more physical capability than even that.
Yep.
I can't find it. And I don't know. Like, I don't think she's definitely not number one. Like, I just remembered that she had like more than you would think.
Okay.
She had a lot at the end of Wrong.
And I definitely wasn't high on her coming out of Survivor. But I have found myself rooting for her this season and wanting her to do well. I definitely think she adds a lot to the show.
I agree. I think she's doing a good job.
Yeah, and I mean, like
that.
you said, who would have thought that Michelle and Corey L would have finished second in this mission and lost by 1 second?
Less.
And that transitions us into less than 1 second, and that transitions us into what I want to talk about next, Ed's performance. Who would have thought that Ed would have been this good of a competitor at this point in the season, right? Tori pretty much say that he was the reason that they won this mission?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, I mean, I really enjoy all three people you just mentioned. I do think we have to be conscious, though, that a lot of these vets probably aren't trying that hard in these missions. Like, Kyle's not even jumping as the horn goes off. And really, it's just the rookies who are at risk here. So they're going to be the ones who are going balls to the wall, where the vets, like, I mean, outside of Big T and maybe CT, do they care if they win the mission or not? Like,
yeah, CT doesn't want to be in the position to have to pick people to go in right now. Like, his game is to stay as under the radar as possible. So he is not going to try to win anything right now. He's going to try to perform well, but I'm
not trying to diminish them. Well. I think they deserve a lot of credit for. Yeah, I do think they deserve a lot of credit for what they did. I just don't know how many people of the vets were really giving 100%.
No, so I'm looking at her seasons from Co-Wrong and Winners at War. She won like 2 each season, so she definitely doesn't have any type of record. Yeah, like, I mean, I think CT actively does not want to win here, right? Mm-hmm. Like, he won, like, as little attention as he can get, the better. And he pretty much had like minimal exposure this episode up until, I don't know when, like
the elimination.
Well, he had a different kind of exposure this episode.
He popped up at some point with a confessional. His first confessional happened pretty late, I think.
It was towards the elimination.
His shorts fell off in the mission.
That's Tommy.
Who? Tommy's?
No, CT's.
CT. No, Tommy's the one whose pants fell off, and then CT turned around and mooned everybody while they were making fun of Tommy.
Well, his were being awful. Naked. He was on the little boat, and they were just talking about it.
Okay. Oh. Yeah. So this mission, I don't know. Like, it's just this. Like, it's the same thing. They're just having small groups go over and over. It's like kind of like tough to tell, like you can't really tell who's doing well and who's doing bad because they're just going against one other group.
Yeah, and they probably you'd have to think they probably reorder how they air these missions just because like they want to show us the pairs the ones that are significant, and then they'll speed through the ones that aren't.
Yeah,
like they wouldn't want to speed through the Michelle, Corey, Tori, Ed round since Michelle did really well. And
you know what
won.
The more that I've thought about this as we're sitting here talking, the last 2 weeks needed to be 90-minute episodes. They had enough content to fill it. This week was an hour episode. Like,
totally.
They stretched out. Like,
totally.
If this was an hour episode, Nelson's boot camp's not there, and this mission is chopped in half, and there's your runtime to get this under 60 minutes. Like, that's where that came from. You could have
easily made this, because they even kind of stretched the elimination. And let's start talking about the elimination now. I thought the elimination was very good, but they stretched that too. Guess how much in airtime the elimination was?
It was like 18 minutes, right?
20.
No, in airtime it was 30 minutes. So the mission started when there was the episode was an hour in.
It was
so
very long.
There was still 30 minutes left in the episode when they got to the elimination ring. So in this episode, it was 30 minutes for the elimination, roughly 30 minutes for the mission, and then 30 minutes for everything else, which I think is a very, at least for my enjoyment, and based off of the 3 years that we spoke, I would guess that that's not in line with how you guys would want to enjoy the show either.
No, and you know what? There's something that I
would think that this would appeal to some of the more casual members of the fan base, though. Like, I don't know if this is like a 0%er in terms
do we
of
know,
what they're doing.
The thing is, though, do we know that casual members of the show like are super into missions? Like, do we know that that's what they show up for?
Some are, some aren't. I mean, I think you would say...
I don't have the market research data in front of me. I know from personal conversations it does.
I want to do Yeah, but that's like a personal conversation that you had offhand with like however many people.
Well,
I
know.
wanna
It's
do,
just like I said, David, I don't have any market research
I
data
know.
available.
I'm
Anybody we're going to be able
saying,
to talk to is more committed fans.
yeah, but anything anecdotal is fucking bullshit. Like, I don't want any like anecdotal things.
Well, but
like,
then why are we even
it's,
talking about it then? Like, all we're doing is talking. Like, there's no.
What do you
I
mean?
get. I understand where you're coming from. Whereas
And
if I was making,
what I'm gonna say, Rob, is that I really would like want to do a survey on this and like figure out like
how
if you did a survey that's what is the number one reason why you watch this show, and then like break it out into the fundamental parts, and then like somehow like survey the audience.
Mhm.
I don't think it would be easy,
How?
but like I would be curious.
look,
How
I
would
would
you do
agree.
it?
I'm just saying we don't have many means available to accomplish that.
You could just like put a survey on MTV or something. You know, like not we could do it. Like, I mean, we could do it. We could put it on Reddit, but that's not like
You're gonna get very
That's all
biased.
committed fans, though.
I know,
That's all
that's what
people
I
who
said.
spend.
That's what I just
I know.
fucking said.
I just.
You got to put it on like MTV or something. That's the only way you could do it. You could do so. What you could do? Listen, you could put it up on a site, and then you could buy ads on MTV. You could just like buy programmatic ads and like blow them up super cheap. Like realistically, if we wanted to do it, we could probably do it for like $100.
Interesting.
But
No,
I don't want to spend the money.
We know where our next patron checks are going. Then
Yeah, no thanks. Hey, so one thing I want to point out here that is interesting about how they've edited the first 3 episodes of this season, okay? They are front-loading content. They went the entire first 15 minutes of the show before they even thought about taking a commercial break. Towards the latter half, the last half hour had 5 commercial breaks that were all like 3 minutes, 4 minutes long.
I feel like that's what they've done traditionally. Don't you think?
It's worse than it ever has been.
This one I noticed it being longer than normal.
Because even during the mission, they only took, you had when the mission started was the first commercial break before they jumped off the cliff. That was commercial break 1. They didn't take another commercial for another 10 minutes. And after the mission, it seemed like they went to commercial every 6 minutes. Like you would barely get any content and then they'd be gone again because they have to hit a certain amount of ads for the show. I really think that the way that they are editing the show from a commercial standpoint makes the show feel longer if you're not zipping through it on a DVR. I think watching this show live as it airs, you're going to lose people as the episode goes because of how many ad breaks they're getting. And I think that's part of, there's a couple things, but I've been watching the ratings trend down and everybody's like, oh, it's the summer. Oh, it's this. Oh, the world's opening up. Well, guess what? During Double Agents, the world was open most everywhere still. We were all wearing masks everywhere and not much really changed in a lot of those places. But like people were out a few months ago during Double Agents. However, the way that they're structuring these episodes, I really think that they're having trouble building a compelling story for the episode in that first 15 minutes, and people are just turning it off.
Isn't it airing at the same time slot as Big Brother right now?
I don't think Big Brother is taking much away from this. I think it's just general.
Significantly.
I would think that there's
how much.
I don't feel the same buzz around this season that I did Double Agents before it aired.
How many more episodes are there in Big Brother? I mean, we're going to be able to find out real quick. I don't think Big Brother has that much time left, do they?
They might be wrapping up soon, but then Survivor starts right after that.
Yeah, so I mean, at this point, they're screwed then. You know what I mean?
They're all owned by the same company. What are they doing?
Like, when are they going to be able to not run them at the same time, though? Survivor runs.
Well, but I mean, it's the same exact time slot?
You might be able to run them like different days, yeah.
Why does the challenge have to be on Wednesday at 8 p.m.? Why can't it be Tuesday at 8 p.m.?
Yeah,
what else are they going to show? Fucking ridiculous.
It was put on Tuesday or Thursday at 8 p.m. Or I don't know why they choose the time slot they do.
Back in the day,
they have to have somebody in the room because the thought in my head is like, okay, somebody was like, oh, the best time to based on the numbers we've run, the best time to run a reality competition series is that Wednesday at 8. And they're like, okay, let's put all of them on Wednesday at 8.
What you have to remember is that like the people who decide that for each of these companies like probably aren't really working together. They're not talking. Apparently, they're not talking with each other at all because then this wouldn't be happening.
Yeah,
but
that's crazy.
But the other thing you have to also take into account is what are the DVR numbers?
People are, like what percentage are watching like either of these shows like completely live? You know what I mean? It's got to be super low.
I don't think it's that long.
If you're like starting the episode like right when it starts and like watching all the commercials, like, oh my god, like
no, like
that's a painful existence.
I think you're speaking from a vacuum of your own existence. There's plenty of people who still watch it live.
There are.
Like,
why? Like, why would you do that?
Because they want to participate in the discussion around it.
Wait 45 minutes, like what we do. Like, wait 30 minutes. Wait 30 minutes, and then you just can just like zip through it.
Devin, like I know, so I throughout both like high school, college, after that, whatever. I know a lot of groups of people who would like watch The Bachelor, for example, and every single group, and just with multiple groups of people, was always insistent. On watching it live at the time so they could participate in the discussion around it. And that's something that's been emblematic also through looking at the media, like just how
the live
talk
tweeting
about
and stuff like that.
Yeah, and for shows to have a community like that, I think that is an important factor. So I think we do a lot of.
And here's the thing: there are close to 1 million people watching the show live. That's what the ratings bear out. Is there's like 1 million people watching live. You throw in DVR numbers, that number probably triples. So you're probably talking about 4 million people watching the show just through DVR and watching it live. That doesn't include MTV.com. That does not include on-demand numbers, because I don't know about you guys, but on my Spectrum, the next day the show is there and the whole season stays up until about a month after the season's done. So I could literally sit and binge on demand the whole series at the end of this if I wanted to. So
what have the ratings been for the newest Big Brother season? So like what's the newest season right now? Do you know?
It's 23.
All right. So keep talking. I'll look them up, because like I think what it comes down to is that I'm guessing still the Big Brother ratings and the amount of people that watch Big Brother is probably still way more than the challenge.
Oh yeah,
right.
I would assume so. Yes.
Yeah.
Just based on the channels they are on.
At the end of the day, they probably just don't even really care that much. They could even be aware of it. Keep going.
Well, if I'm
doesn't
CBS,
care, you think that they?
No, CBS.
I think CBS doesn't care. MTV might not care, but they should care,
even though
because
they should.
More people. Yeah. Because they are competing against their own property at that point. You've got people from Big Brother and Survivor on the show. So why the heck, during the Survivor and Big Brother time slot, are you not running ads for the challenge on Thursday at 8 p.m.? Like, take that 4 million audience and put ads in that show Tommy, show Michelle, show Josh, show Fessy, show Casey.
Right afterwards.
Yeah, why not? Have it go at 9 p.m. instead of 8 p.m. Why not?
Yeah. Like, it's a very weird own goal from them. I mean, again, it's just with any of these things, you always have to be...
Yeah.
Maybe they're just privy to something we're not.
And who knows?
It seems like a very weird decision.
From MTV's perspective, they might view that 8 p.m. on Wednesday is their prime slot for any of their programming. So if you consider 8 p.m. Wednesday to be the night that you can get the highest ratings, even with competition, then they're going to put it on at 8 p.m. Wednesday. So that's the thing that I have to keep in mind from the MTV production standpoint, but at the same time, I think they're cutting their nose to spite their face with that.
Yeah. So the challenge is like 60% of what Big Brother has been this season, as far as viewers.
Sure.
Big Brother sits around like 1 million. And then, well, actually, no. I was looking at 18 to 49. They're like way more. So they're around 4 million every episode, and the challenge is around 600,000. 600,000.
Not surprising.
Yeah, last year they were getting close to 1 million. This year they are down, like way down.
I really think that's a big factor. And this season of Big Brother, from what I've...
But how many more viewers are they going to gain if it's not airing at the same time as Big Brother?
I mean, look, I don't know. It's not, so I don't have any.
We won't know because they're not really advertising it right. I mean, if I'm MTV and I want the challenge to have the highest rating possible in the live setting, why do you want it to have the highest rating possible in the live setting? You make more money from ads. You get more ad money the more people watch the show. So if I'm them, the best way to maximize is to put them on at 9 o'clock on Wednesday or 8 o'clock on Thursday. And during Survivor and Big Brother, you run 2 ads for the challenge and you spotlight in the ad those Big Brother and Survivor people, because you will get random viewers as well as the people that watch both shows watching them live back to back.
I mean, I know that the two of you are going to disagree with me, but I think it's just I think they blew their chance. They had a chance while these shows weren't on the air to really like build up the viewer base. I think they put out a bad product, and I think it's catching up to them. That's my like personal belief on this. I think that the direction that they've taken the show in has just been very poor, and they really had an opportunity with Big Brother off the air, Survivor off the air for an entire year, to just really grow the fan base. And I don't think it's going to happen, or it hasn't happened.
I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with a lot of that.
No,
I
can't.
I guess how much of it is on the product itself is a little bit different. I think a lot of it, the issue is just some of it's marketing and
see, that's my thing. Like, yeah, there could be issues with marketing, advertising, whatever. But I think I think the product, like in and of itself, can really use a lot of work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, and then we need to talk about the elimination, but the one thing about that I had not considered is maybe the ratings for Total Madness and Double Agents are just bad numbers because of the lack of competition. I mean, granted, Total Madness aired with Winners at War, but we were also all locked down during that, and so there were more eyeballs.
It wasn't the entirety of the season either.
Yeah, it was like there was still a decent amount of Total Madness that didn't happen with Winners at War. Like Winners at War was just at the beginning.
Yeah, but at the same time,
right, Rob?
but the rating could have been artificially high because America was locked down.
Yeah.
Then you circle around to Double Agents. There's no Big Brother, no Survivor, so more people watched it live than they would have. But now that Big Brother and Survivor are back, the ratings for the challenge are back to where they were for War of the Worlds 2.
No, but I mean, are they? How much up were they for Total Madness versus War of the Worlds 2?
They were up. They were almost at 1 million viewers every week. See, that's the thing. They were beating wrestling in that time slot for Total Madness. They were also beating. They were the number 1 rated non-news program on Wednesday night for Total Madness the entire season and for the entire season of Double Agents. And this year, wrestling is starting to beat it again, and the news is also getting it. So that's kind of where I fall into, like, maybe those numbers were artificially high and we were taking for granted the fact that there was a ton of casual viewers that maybe DVR the show and don't watch it live normally, but because of the state of the world, they just watched it live. That could be why those numbers were inflated.
So we have exactly 8 minutes to talk
elimination
about the elimination
and power rankings.
And do power rankings. So elimination, great elimination. I thought so. The correct way to do this, and they may have been doing this, and it just wasn't easy to tell, is to just line up all the poles on the ground first, from like shortest to like longest, and then just put them up, right? But it seemed like with the real issue that they had was once they had them in the correct place, attempting to climb on them and just falling off. Like, I mean, it felt like they showed Berna fall off a dozen times, and I don't even think that's an exaggeration.
No,
it seemed like they were very slippery. I also, like, the poles had a lot of give to them when they were standing on them. It didn't seem like they were very stable if you looked at it when either of them stood on top of them. So I think, they just kept falling.
This literally
I was pretty engaged throughout this elimination, though. Like, I didn't think that... I know it was long, but I thought it was pretty engaging.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot because it was dramatic. Like, Tasha was trying her heart out to win. Like, both of them were trying their hearts out to win, and that always makes for a compelling elimination, even if you don't necessarily... And I'm not saying I don't like these people, but if you don't like these people, you can't deny that they gave you a good show in this elimination. The other thing that I just immediately, the moment I saw the setup, I was like, oh, so we're going back to the Ruins episode 1 and just adding a greater degree of difficulty, because all they did to change this elimination was make the thing get wider as it went up. Like, on the Ruins, it was the same all the way up.
It
seemed like what they were walking on in the Ruins was also much more stable than these poles.
This is like a really like standard. I feel like they've probably even done this more times since then, right? Like, or am I just not?
I mean, they've done versions of it. Like, there's the one that Josh and Amanda do versus Cam and Kane on War of the Worlds 1, where they're like going up on their backs and doing it as a pair. So there's a lot that are pretty similar to it.
That's what it's like, the same type of premise. Like, fundamentally, it's like the same type of thing. I think it's a good premise. I think it definitely like shows some physical ability. it's somewhat entertaining. From a viewer's perspective, you can tell who's winning, right? So you can kind of follow along. I think that's something that's very important. I think that's something that's very important, not only for eliminations, but also missions, for us to be able to tell like what's going on and who's in which place. Even if you don't reveal it to us who the winner is right away, that's fine. Just be able to allow us to have some sense of who's performing well and who's performing poorly.
I agree. I think this one it shows a lot about composure too, like who's keeping calm during the elimination and keeping focus. So I thought it was good, even if it did run pretty long.
Mm-hmm.
I also thought it was interesting to see how much CT was supporting Berna. Yeah. I mean, he really doesn't want to. He probably really didn't want to get stuck with Tasha or Big T. So
if I'm CT right now, I don't want Berna to go home for two reasons. One, she's a decent competitor, and she's also been in the circus. So when it comes to agility stuff and endurance, he knows she probably has it. So if they can make it to the final, she's a good partner. The other reason he wants Berna to stick around is Nelson and his alliance ain't voting her in. So you kind of have a link to that alliance unofficially, and you're not having to once again declare an allegiance one way or the other, because being connected to Berna, now your only threat to being thrown in is in the winner's vote. So in terms of the House vote, as long as he's still with Berna and the Nelson alliance stays solid, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Because I would have a hard time seeing being picked as a winner's vote. I would still think that's going to be rookies for some time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's do power rankings. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
I guess I can go first.
Go ahead, Rob. Go ahead. Go.
Okay. So for the woman, I'll move Tori off the top spot for now. I don't think this episode's a nail in her coffin. I don't think this is a nail in her coffin necessarily, but it definitely was not great for her. So I'll go Amanda 1, Nani 2, Tori 3. Still, I'll keep her in the top 3, but definitely move her down.
Amanda, Nani, who's your Tori? Okay. And then who do you have?
The men, I'll go Nelson 1. I'll go Devin 2, Corey 3.
I think Devin is a good choice. Someone else who we haven't talked about is being a potential contender to win this season, but I will give credit to someone that mentioned it in Discord. I don't even know if he mentioned him as a threat to win the season, but I think he mentioned him as a threat to win a season at some point. It was No Quitters staff. I can't remember what his username in Discord is, but he mentioned Josh as someone that could potentially win a season at some point. Honestly, like, he's playing very well this season. He could fall like backwards into a final, and like I think like he's like okay enough to like where he like could be able to luck into one at some point. Like I don't think that's the most outrageous thing. I don't think that's the most outrageous coming from you, Rob, who thinks Anissa has a chance to win one at some point, or who there's like
I never said that. I think that there's not a non.
He said you can't give her a 0%.
I think Josh has the worst odds of any veteran male. Like I think Anissa has the worst odds of any veteran female.
He's so tied with the Big Brother alliance. Like he's always a part of like such a really strong alliance coming into the season. Now we're not in double agents or total madness where you have to go and do an elimination and win to make it to the final. He doesn't have to worry about that anymore. He doesn't have to worry about someone trying to steal his skull. He can just coast to the final if he needs to, and then like who knows what happens if he gets a good partner.
Yeah, and CT still calls him the Goose. I don't see him have
better odds than any veteran male right now.
All right, we don't have time to debate that. What's your overall?
I'll go Nelson 1, Amanda 2, Nani 3.
Okay, Nelson, Amanda, Nani, Chase, go.
Okay, men, I'm gonna go Nelson, CT, Devon. I'm changing it up. I feel like the way I just can't imagine why they're doing Nelson's boot. They're finding ways to shoehorn Nelson into these episodes that are meaningless. So I'm like, are they trying to make Nelson more likable so that when he wins, people like it? Or is this just they need content and they think it's entertaining? But anyway.
I mean, I thought the way that... So are you saying that with the boot camp or everything with Berna? Because everything with Berna, I thought it made sense why it was in there.
No, that makes sense. but they're focusing a lot on Nelson and they're finding ways to get him more visibility. So it's like I'm starting to realize like either he's going to have a big part in the end of this season or he wins it right now. So I would say Nelson, Devon, CT. And then on the women's side, I would go...
Wait, Nelson, Devon, CT, or Nelson, CT,
Oh, Nelson, Devon? CT, Devon.
Okay, cool.
And then on the female side, I like Amanda, Nani, and Tori, even though she's, like Rob said, her nail's not in the coffin, but her stock is dropping every week because she's playing sloppy, at least politically sloppy. And then overall, I feel still the best about Amanda on the female side. So I would go Amanda, Nelson, and then CT.
Okay. And then quickly to go through mine, I'm going to go Amanda, Casey, Nani. For the men, I'm going to go Fessy, Nelson, Devin. And then overall, I'm going to go Amanda, Fessy, and then I guess Nelson. Yeah, why not? No, I feel better about Casey, actually. Okay. What else? That's it.
All right. We got to go.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Again, if you want to become a patron, you can go to patreon.com/The Chronicles. If you want to send us a message, you can reach us at thechallengechronicles@gmail.com. We'll talk to you again later this week if you're a patron. If not, we'll talk to you again next Wednesday. Bye.